you're thinking about moving to Australia. Amazing choice. Let's talk about the big question: how much money do you actually need to emigrate? So in this video, we're going to break down all the essential costs from visa fees to flights, accommodation, and even some hidden expenses that most people don't think about. So by the end, you'll have a solid idea of how much you should save before making the move.
Okay, first up, visas. The cost of your visa will depend on the type that you apply for. Here are a few common ones. So first, the working holiday visa, that's the subclass 417/462, that's around 640 Australian dollars. The skilled independent visa, which is the subclass 189, is over 4,600 Australian dollars, plus costs for dependents. The partner visa, which is the subclass 820/801, that one is a whopping 8,850 Australian dollars. And then the temporary skill shortage visa, that's the subclass 482, which is employer sponsored. There's a few costs to break down here. So the short-term stream is 1,455 Australian dollars. The medium term stream is 3,035 Australian dollars, and dependent fees, if they're applicable, vary per family member. I think dependent on age.
I think if they're under 16, it's like pretty much half an adult price, I think.
Yeah, and that's just the application fee. So you may also need to budget for extra costs like medical exams, $300 to $500. Police checks, $50 to $100, and migration agent fees if you use one.
So next is flights. The price for a one-way ticket to Australia varies depending on where you're coming from. So here's a rough guide. So UK to Australia is 1,200 to 2,500 Australian dollars. USA to Australia is 1,000 to 2,000 Australian dollars. And also anywhere in Europe to Australia is between 1,500 to 3,000 Australian dollars. Some 482 visa holders may have their employer cover flights, but if not, budget accordingly. And don't forget additional luggage fees, especially if you're bringing extra bags.
Okay, so initial accommodation. When you land, you're going to need somewhere to stay. Short-term rentals, Airbnb or hotels can cost anywhere from 500 to 2,000 Australian dollars for a couple of weeks. If you're renting long-term, expect to pay in Sydney or Melbourne around 600 to 800 Australian dollars per week for a one-bed apartment, and in Brisbane and Perth around 400 to 600 Australian dollars per week. Most rentals require a bond, which is usually about 4 to 6 weeks rent up front, so your budget should be at least 3,000 to 5,000 Australian dollars just for securing a place. Some 482 visa holders may get rental assistance from their employer, but not always.
Now let's talk about day-to-day expenses. On average, here's what you'll spend each month. So rent is between 2,000 and 3,500 Australian dollars, obviously depending on location. Groceries, 400 to 800 Australian dollars. Transport, 100 to 200 Australian dollars. Utilities and internet, 200 to 400 Australian dollars. Some 482 visa holders may have relocation support from their employer, covering things like flights, accommodation, or even car allowance. So make sure you check your contract for any benefits.
Okay, let's talk about hidden costs, things that can catch some people out. So first of all, health insurance. That is required for some visas, including the 482 visa. That can cost between 100 and 200 Australian dollars per month. Buying furniture and essentials. So if you're renting an unfurnished place, you should budget around 2,000 to 5,000 Australian dollars. And then you're going to want to get around. So car purchase and registration. If you're buying a used car, expect to spend between 5,000 and 15,000 Australian dollars. Then, last but not least, school fees for 482 visa holders in some states. They do require tuition payments for children of 482 visa holders, and they can range from between 5,000 to 15,000 Australian dollars per child per year.
So let's add it all up. So to move comfortably to Australia, you should aim to have, for a working holiday visa, between 7,000 and 10,000 Australian dollars. Skilled visa applicants, 15,000 to 25,000 Australian dollars. A partner visa applicant, 20,000 to 30,000 plus Australian dollars. For a 482 is between 10 and 20,000 Australian dollars, depending on relocation support from your employer. Of course, your costs will vary depending on your situation, but this should give you a solid idea of what to expect.
So we really hope that that breakdown helps. We get asked that question quite a lot on our Instagram and just wanted to cover it off. Of course, all of them costs are usually per person. So if there's 2 of you coming out, you need to double it. If you've got dependents, then sometimes them costs sort of are lower.
Depending on the age, like we said, if you're under 16, then you'd half the price of an adult application.
Yeah, but all in all, you honestly need to be prepared to either have a lot of cash to put up, or hopefully you may have some assistance if you're relocating from one employer in the UK to one here, or to a new one here. Maybe they'll help you, but it's definitely an expensive exercise.
And one of these.
Oh, we've not even mentioned that. So that cost us around 16,000 Australian dollars and took around 8 months. So obviously if you've got more than one dog, or if you've got a heavier dog, then that's going to cost you even more money.
Obviously she's worth it, as you can tell. She loves being on the videos.
She's a little bit nervous today because it's quite windy. There's a cyclone coming, and we've got some trees come down in the garden, so I think it's sketching her out. But I guess just to finish off the video, top tip: before we moved, we had 8 months before she could come out here to basically get rid of all of our things, and we've done a few videos on that if you have a look, about how we did that and what we sold. But normal things like car boot sales, Facebook Marketplace, Vinted was great in the UK. They don't have Vinted here in Australia. So we sold a lot of things before we came out. We put all that money in a separate bank account, and we used that when we got here to pay for things that we needed to replace. So if we'd sold a TV in England and put that money aside, we use that money to buy a TV here. So we really recommend that you do that, because that really helps.
It definitely helps save the money, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, and it's not gonna pay for everything, because you're having to start again. You have to buy everything either brand new or second hand. You still have to buy it physically again. So it's not for the faint-hearted. It's very hard. If you can at all negotiate with your new employer, then that's going to help you. But most of all, I think just be prepared that it's going to cost a lot of money.
Yeah, it's not cheap moving 14,000 miles the other side of the world. It isn't cheap.
No, it's stressful, and honestly the first 6 months are just so hard because you feel like you're hemorrhaging money. I can remember one particular weekend when we were completely skint, we had no money, and I never want to see an episode of Gladiators again, because we spent that whole weekend watching Gladiators on telly because we had no money to do anything or go anywhere. I guess the good thing here is you can go for lots of nice walks that don't cost money.
And Kmart's a lifesaver.
Kmart's a lifesaver, and just all in all, try and think ahead, plan what you need, plan financially what you're going to need, take your time, don't rush it. And you need to be a strong family unit as well, because when one of you's having a bit of a down day, the other one needs to pick the other one up, and vice versa, and you just have to keep going. You can't give up.
That's right, it's just got to remember, stay focused on the goal while you're doing it.
Yeah. So anyway, if you've enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. We appreciate everybody that subscribes and watches. We also have an Instagram. Our handle is The Great Emigrate. We have a competition going on over there because we've nearly hit 1,000 subscribers. So have a look for Instagram. Follow that. There is a competition that's pinned to the front of the page. If you enter, you could win an Amazon voucher. We're very close to giving that away now.
You can have the dog as well, the dog's included.
And thanks for all your comments, all your questions. And if you've got any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. And
see you in the next one.